let's do it here. Our first ever top 5 list. The top 5 Chicago Bears quarterbacks of all time. I feel like we should flip. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first? How do you want to do this, Schmitty? Because I'm very excited about my top 5.
Yeah, I'll go first and preface this by saying just because they're on the Bears top 5 list of best quarterbacks of all time doesn't mean they're any good, because as we know, the Bears have not had good luck with quarterbacks. So some of these names that I could be saying, they're good in the context of how shitty the Bears quarterbacks have been. But one
caveat before you go. You can do this based on future expectations. Everything is on the table there. So if you want, my point being, obviously, if you want to pick Justin Fields, you can, or because he is currently a Bears quarterback, and we will, when we look back on this in 5 years, we will take a look at the entirety of his career at that point to see if this list was perhaps dead on the money. But go ahead.
All right, number 5, I'm going with the former first-round pick out of the University of Florida. Rex Grossman was the starting quarterback for the team that went to a Super Bowl. Rex is our quarterback. Had 7 outstanding games that Super Bowl season. Tied Peyton Manning for the most games with a quarterback rating over 100. Had some high highs, had some low lows. It was the Rex roller coaster, but when he was on, I can remember some of those dimes to be thrown up the left sideline to Bernard Berry, and didn't win the Super Bowl, didn't play great in the Super Bowl, didn't play great in some of the wins that the Bears got, but in the entire context, he was a quarterback on a Bears team that went to the Super Bowl. You get the number 5 spot for me.
Wow. Okay. I don't want to give away my list, so keep going. Number 4.
Oh, I'm going, okay, all through these? Okay, cool. Yeah, number 4, didn't have the gaudiest stats, didn't look great out of the pads, but I just loved his demeanor and his leadership and what he brought to the team. Jim Miller, I loved what he brought to the team. We didn't think he was going to be the starter. We thought that was going to be Shane Matthews, and then Jim Miller out of nowhere. Loved what he brought to the team. Love what he brought to the organization. Thought he was just a great dude. Still working in the Chicago media covering the Bears. Jim Miller coming into number 4 for me.
Love Jim Miller. Not on my list. Love Jim Miller, though. Gritty, grimy Jim Miller. God bless you. Keep going.
Number 3, Eric Cramer. Had the Bears single season touchdown leader. Didn't have the longest tenure with the Bears, but he was a stud for Wani, Coach Stash. In the mid-90s, liked him, didn't have the longest run here, but Eric Cramer, number 3 for me. Number 2, Jim McMahon, the punky QB. Again, didn't necessarily fulfill that, huge promise and potential. So many injuries, and that's why Ditka and the Bears kept drafting quarterbacks and drafted, Tom Zach and Doug Flutie and all these other dudes to come in. And that's why Jim McMahon left and didn't really, build on the success of being the quarterback for Super Bowl 20. But the dude is a legend. He's an icon. He's recently on Twitter, or semi-recently, he's been on there for a little while now. He's not brand new, but rebuilding the brand and connecting with some new and old Bears fans on Twitter. So Jim McMahon, I wish I was a little bit older to enjoy and appreciate more of what he did off the field and his personality and how he just clashed with Pete Rozelle and that just everything at the Super Bowl alone. So the punky QB, Jim McMahon, for me, comes in at number 2. So number 1.
Here it comes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm building the suspense here. No, does he go with Justin Fields and the all-in potential? No, I'm not saying Justin Fields yet. If we do this list next year, I can't put all my eggs in the future basket. But of course, I'm all in on Ryan Pohl, or I'm all in on Justin Fields. But show me something. I'm not going Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler probably had a good case to be 5 or 4, certainly. And probably if I were to redo this list, he'd probably bump Rexy out of the bottom. But really can't go any other way other than Sid Luckman. I mean, the guy's got all the records 900 years later. The guy's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that really is all that needs to be said about Sid Luckman. Best Bears quarterback we've ever seen. And we haven't seen him because we were like 30, 40, 50 years away from being born by the time his career was over.
Yeah, was there television in 1943 when the Bears won the championship? All right, Sid's on my list. So is McMahon. Did you not have Cuddy? Give me your.
You know what? I'm gonna do an addendum or an amendment, however we're gonna do it.
I think it's great that you don't have Cuddy. I think it's fantastic. I almost didn't put him in there myself, but I did. So I think, and listen, you've got guys on there that probably belong that I don't have. This is personal preference. But so for me, I've got Cuddy at 5 because he did throw for 23,000 plus yards with the Bears and 154 touchdowns. But he's 5th because yes, they had one playoff appearance in the NFC Championship game where of course they lost. One playoff appearance, 8 seasons. It ain't great. Jay Cutler was the king of mediocre, 51-51, and wasn't a leader. But for his tenure here and his talent and the numbers, I'm allowing Jay Cutler on my list. But in my protest of him being on my list at number 4, I'm going with a guy who had a 68% completion percentage and led the NFL in interception percentage. He threw 13 touchdowns to 1 interception. That is the best ratio in Bears history. He was a bona fide leader in the locker room. He should have been their starting quarterback. He is a future head coach. 16 years in the NFL, 9 teams. Josh Damn McCown is number 4 on my Chicago Bears quarterback list, misused by the Bears hierarchy, but one of the great runs. 4-3, Schmitty. 4-3. Josh McCown as the mayor of McCownville. I made him number 4.
He had a great couple of game stretch there. Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall, all the jump balls when Cuddy was out.
13 touchdowns. He was incredible.
We're going deep into the Pro Football Reference stats here with the interception percentage. I love it. You're making the case. Didn't make my top 5, but neither did Cuddy. But hey, the only good thing Mark Trestman did here was giving Josh McCown a shot.
If you talk to guys in that locker room too, Earl Bennett, person number 1, they all wanted McCown starting. When Cuddy got out, they're like, no, don't put 6 back in there. This guy's doing it. But Trestman was an idiot, and the Bears were just giving Cuddy the extension was moronic too. Yeah. Number 3, yes, I am going with hope beyond hope. The 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, not great, but we've seen the flashes and we've seen Bears quarterbacks. So I'm going with the bolt to lightning. I'm going with the bomb to Mooney against the Lions, a couple of them. Cross his body to Jesse James for a touchdown with San Francisco. The 4th-and-1 insane run against the 49ers. Justin Fields, you are on my list right now at number 3. I couldn't put you any higher even though you have a chance to get there, but I am betting on you, Justin Fields. So you are number 3, even with your rookie season, on my Bears list for all-time quarterbacks. Number 2, and this was hard, but I am putting that for me. Number 2 is Sid Luckman. Interesting. 1943. The dude had a quarterback rating of 107.5, which was the best in the NFL and basically unheard of at that time. 28 touchdown passes, which was the most in the league. Threw for over 2,100 yards, which was the most at that time. And they won. They won the NFL championship. There's an 8-1 football team. So Sid Luckman, you are number 2. And number 1, I'm sorry, and I know they had a great defense and all that, and Walter Payton, but Jim McMahon was just incredible when he was right. 46-15 in college at BYU. My guy Glenn Kozlowski played with McMahon, played with Steve Young. Who was better? McMahon. McMahon was a great quarterback. Unfortunately, he got dumped on his head and his shoulder by Charles Martin. His shoulder never healed, but the guy had a very lengthy career, 67-30. He led the NFL, by the way, in 1987 in fourth quarter comebacks, which is an interesting little moment. I mean, Jim McMahon, the numbers don't really tell you, but that number is in there. The dude was clutch, and he was smart, and he knew what the hell he was doing, and he had a ton of balls. And so for the glimmer that he was, in my lifetime at least, best quarterback I've ever seen in a Bears uniform, not even close. Like, I never trusted Cutler. I trusted Jim McMahon to the end of the world. So just couldn't stay healthy and had too much fun off the field too. I don't think Jim McMahon spent a lot of time in the weight room and probably never did one damn Pilates and or whatever. But he's still number one, the tallest tree in the Bears small forest of Bears quarterbacks. I give it to 9.
I think it's fair. Not seeing Sid Luckman. It's a different game. He dominated the 40s. But it's different. So I understand not having him at number one like I did. I had Jim McMahon at 2, so we had the same top 2. We had some personal favorites rounding out, me, Jim Miller, you, Josh McCown, not McGowan or McNown. And yeah, I think, my color, I'd probably, if I did this list 9 times out of 10, 9 times I'd probably slide Cutler in there. But you were saying it was more disappointments than accomplishment and success. So it was a disappointing era. All the picks he gave up and to get him coming close a little bit, the NFC Championship game lost, that injury, and just never getting back to that. So yeah, it's a tough group. And Justin Fields, if we're doing this list next year, if he throws for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns this year, rocket train to number 1 for me.
It's actually sacrilegious for me that I even put Cutler on my list, but I did because I don't even know why I did, because I had all my other favorites on there and I put Cuddy in there, so that was my balancing. I guess that was the balancing out of allowing me to do everything else that I love to do here.